The Great Pyramids are such spectacular structures that it's hard to believe they were invented and perfected in less than a century. Before there were pyramids, early Egyptian kings were buried in the ground beneath simple mud brick piles called mastabas. That changed around 2600 BC when an architectural tidal wave hit. Then a genius named Imhotep invented a new way to glorify the king, what you might call the original Stairway to Heaven. Built for an Egyptian king named Zosa, this stepped monument is one of the most extraordinary buildings on the planet. It's the world's very first pyramid. Today, Dr. Hawass has a crucial mission at the stepped pyramid. He's going deep below it to check on the condition of several treasures, in particular a magic carving of the king that's feared damaged. He's dropped down into a maze. The architect not only built a massive pyramid for King Zosa, he also built him a sprawling underground palace for eternity. No one's been in these chambers for more than 30 years. Because they're extremely dangerous, some parts have collapsed. They were closed off 3 decades ago. Today, Zahi will become the only living archaeologist to visit Zosa's eternal home. Spread over 3.5 miles of tunnels and rooms, shafts and galleries, the palace was filled with jars and offerings, everything the king would need for the afterlife. And some of it is still here.
This is a beer jar. It's for the storage of beer. And this is baskets. It's made of papyrus. Can you imagine now that you are touching this basket? Then maybe Zosa himself had put his finger on that. I have to say it's dangerous. The stones from the top can fall down. We can be buried here all our life. No one will know anything about us.
At its heart, at the base of a huge soaring shaft, Zahi reaches King Zosa's burial chamber.
Amazing, you know, people who talks about the Great Pyramid of Khufu, they do not know that before Khufu, the Egyptians were building an amazing structure like this. This is the most beautiful place on earth.
In the center, partially hidden under an old collapse, he finds the king's granite sarcophagus.
It's very heavy. I think it's about more than 20 tons weight with the lid. This is the resting place for this great king.
But Zosa's body isn't inside. In fact, his body has never been found. Zahi continues his exploration, and at the end of a small corridor, he finds what he's looking for. A powerful image of the king carved onto a magic door. It's through this door that Zosa would step into the afterlife.
It's amazing.
For Zahi, this is an emotional moment, but this was never meant to be seen by the living.
Today it's a very important moment in my life. This is wonderful.
Zahi can return to the 21st century in the realm of the living, satisfied that the treasures are safe. Perhaps more than anyone, Zahi understands just how valuable the stepped pyramid is. Its invention was like a bolt of lightning for the ancient Egyptians, powering a 100-year pyramid building boom. During that time, Khufu's father, the great pharaoh Snefru, solved a prickly problem. something that's important for tonight's show. He figured out how to build chambers and shafts inside a solid stone pyramid. Mark Lehner, one of the world's foremost pyramid experts, has come to Snefru's first pyramid to reveal how the problem was solved. Centuries before the Romans perfected the arch, how did the Egyptians prevent the massive weight of the pyramid above from crushing the king's burial chamber below?
In order to build a chamber up in the pyramid without the weight of the pyramid crushing the chamber, they corbelled the side walls. That is, they brought every course of masonry in a few inches more than the one below it, until the chamber closed on itself. And that way, the weight of the pyramid wasn't crushing down onto the burial of the king.
Because of this major innovation, Snefru's body could be placed higher in the pyramid, closer to the stars via a stairway to heaven and the eternal afterlife. While they figured out how to move the king's body up into the pyramid, the sides of Snefru's first pyramid collapsed. The builders still hadn't worked out how to build a smooth-sided pyramid that wouldn't fall down. So Snefru started in on another. This one is called the Bent Pyramid because of its slightly twisted climb towards the sky. Today, Zahi's inspectors are visiting for an annual check. Inside, they see plenty of evidence that Snefru's builders had mastered the art of corbelling. This chamber has a soaring vault, and it was just an anteroom to the burial chamber. To reach it, the inspectors first have a long climb to the top, and then they crawl through a series of small tunnels. Snefru, determined that his body would be left in peace, made his burial chamber as inaccessible as possible. But even with this remarkable tomb, now home to thousands of bats, Snefru still wasn't happy. No body, in fact not even his sarcophagus, was found inside. No one knows why Snefru wasn't satisfied with this pyramid. Maybe it was the weird shape. If it had continued at its original angle, this would have been the largest pyramid ever built. But some scientists think the sides were too steep and that it too would have collapsed. Undaunted, Snefru started on yet another pyramid, his third in less than 30 years. This time he settled on a smaller version, but with perfectly smooth sides. Called the Red Pyramid, it set the stage for the ultimate experiment in pyramid building. It was Snefru's son Khufu who would build the greatest of all pyramids. When Khufu became pharaoh, he immediately began to plan for his own death, incorporating each of his father's innovations. Khufu would have marked the spot for his tomb through an elaborate foundation ceremony. Then, construction could begin on what would become one of the 7 wonders of the world. As Khufu's new pyramid rose from the ground, the builders were creating a labyrinth inside. Construction became as complex as 3-dimensional chess. As each layer of stone was placed atop the other, gaps had to be left in the right place for every shaft and every chamber. At any stage of construction, looking down on the pyramid would reveal just how complicated this job was. Some of these interior spaces are huge. The Great Gallery, a massive sloped shaft that leads to Khufu's burial chamber, is nearly 30 feet high and over 140 feet long. At the entrance to the king's burial chamber, the pyramid workers built an ingenious device to stop any tomb robbers.
After they put the mummy of the king inside the sarcophagus, the workmen and the priestess and the son of the king will push this slab to close the entrance of the burial chamber, and the king will be buried safely for the afterlife.
The blocks were lifted long ago, probably by tomb robbers. On the other side is the inner sanctum, the burial chamber. Curiously, just like in the Queen's chamber, there are two small shafts here. They may be connected to Khufu's spirit, which would have been entombed in the giant sarcophagus. But his body has never been found, and neither has his treasure chamber. The idea of undiscovered chambers has captivated the public for centuries. But even many of the known shafts and chambers are still a mystery, like the Subterranean Chamber underneath the pyramid. It sits almost 100 feet below the surface of the plateau and can only be reached by a steep shaft. Cut out of bedrock, it would have been huge, more than 40 feet long, with 16-foot ceilings. But it was never finished. What was it for? Was this going to be the burial chamber, only to be abandoned for one higher in the pyramid? And what about the Queen's chamber itself? Despite the name, it wasn't for Khufu's queen. She has her own pyramid just outside.